Hi, this is Dominic Keating. I played Lieutenant Malcolm Reed on Enterprise, as you probably know, and you are listening to the NX 7062 podcast. Enjoy.
Well, hello to everybody out there. I see Robert and Dave and Nancy and Melissa and Janine and Slack Twaddle. Look at you all. I am so excited to have you all here. Robert, I'm glad you had fun at Starbase Indy. You met some of my favorite people, Mohammed and Bonnie and Lair and Dr. Trek, because I am so bad with his last name. Hi, Margit. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to do a real quick Shuttle Pod Show after party spiel, and then we're going to go jump into the reason that you're all here, because I know you aren't all just here to see me, even though I love it. Hold on. Wait. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. That's also not what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. Okay. Much better. Okay. So there was no Shuttle Pod Show yesterday, for those of you that noticed, which is probably everybody. Yay, Slack, you made it finally. Yes. So what happened was, in case you don't know, is YouTube has very, very, very specific rules regarding copyright and their infringements and such. And because yesterday's show was supposed to be a watch party with David Livingston sitting down with the boys to talk about Shuttle Pod 1, and it was a watch party on their end. They were going to watch Shuttle Pod 1 and comment on it, kind of, almost MSTK style, but not quite. But when Mark uploaded it, Shuttle Pod Show saw that there was, an Enterprise episode in it and copyright, and it set off the copyright bells. And it got pulled, and it didn't get resolved in time for the show to happen. Mark is going to work really hard. These episodes are fantastic. And to have David Livingston sitting with the guys to talk about Shuttle Pod 1 and watch Shuttle Pod 1 and relive it would have been an amazing experience to share. And Mark feels terrible that this happened, but there are ways around it. He just needs to figure out the best way to do this so that we can all sit and enjoy. But you also have to understand that those rules are in place for a reason. There are people that will take advantage and use copyrighted material for nefarious schemes, I guess you could say, or whatever you want to call it. But people use copyright material without thinking about it or thinking about what hey, word dog, think about the consequences, thinking about what they're taking away from the people that have done. Hey, Dave, taking away from the people that have done the work. So I see it from YouTube's point of view. It's just Mark and the Shuttle Pod Show have been caught up in the sledgehammer that the AI is, that just kind of does a sweep where had a human looked at it and had a conversation, it probably wouldn't have gotten pulled and whatnot. So I know that he's working on it, and we all have the George Takei interview to look forward to, as well as, don't forget, Shuttle Pod Show Live 2 is coming up in April. And it is very appropriate that I mention the Shuttle Pod Show Live that's coming up in April, because my very special guests, one of them was able to make it to Shuttle Pod Show 1, and she was fantastic in the table read of The Odd Couple. And with that said, I am bringing in John and Bonnie. Hello. Yes. And John, you missed all that fun.
I was supposed to come, and instead I did something else. I think I shot a movie.
You got pulled away, which is fine.
Yes.
I got to read with Nana, though.
She got to read with Nana. She got to show me her nerd herd jacket. I think that might have been one of my highlights. Because remember, I met you at the car. We both pulled in at the same time, and we were chatting, and I had mentioned that. And I mentioned Chuck, and you went, "Oh!" I went, oh, "Nerd herd." I still think they should have given you a car too, because that would have been awesome. They'd given you.
I have to say that jacket is kind of the best, though.
Is it?
Yeah,
a car would have been nice.
Actually. Yeah, a car would have been nice.
Yeah.
I mean, a colonel deserves more than just a jacket.
Yeah. Well, to me personally, a tank would have been nice.
Number 7 on the call sheet, I speak as number 7 on the call sheet myself, rarely gets a car.
I was number 10. Thank you.
Number 10 gets bupkis.
It gets a jacket, and I was
got a jacket.
Jacket is actually pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good. It's a really cool jacket.
But that's the thing is people who've never seen Chuck. There are people who have never seen Chuck. Often younger people, of course, because it was on a while ago. They walk up to me and they go, what is your jacket saying? They go, oh my God, nerd herd. Oh my God, I love this jacket. It's so cool. And actually, and I will be quick, I was in a diner with a friend. A young man and his mother came up to me and said, oh my God, we love your jacket. And they went, nerd herd, are you those nerd herds? And I was like, what? And they went, JPL, the nerd herd, the ones that like won all the awards from the high schools for their science studies and all this kind of stuff. You were so amazing. It's like, well, I'm about 60 years old and no.
Nerd herd jacket, and I wear my Harvard Medical School T-shirt. We walk around and we just ooze fake smartness. Anybody need a tracheotomy? Or
I was at a one-day convention outside of Valley Forge on Saturday. It was one day. It was a tribute to Sid and Marty Krofft, and my friends from Land of the Lost were there. Kathy Coleman and Wesley Uren. I don't know if you ever watched Land of the Lost.
Wesley who?
Wesley Ure. They were the brother and sister. They were Holly and.
I thought you said Wesley Uren. Was that was really his name? What a terrible name to be stuck with.
Hello, Shuttlepod Show. Shuttlepod Show's joined us. That's awesome.
Hi.
Nothing you could do with the last name Uren. You could be Bill, you could be Sam, you could be Frida.
Doesn't matter. No, it's E-U-R-E. But anyway, besides Land of the Lost, at the same time as Land of the Lost, Wesley was also Mike Horton on Days of Our Lives. And my friend came to see me. I have a friend that lived near there, and he came to see me straight from the hospital. He is actually a doctor, and he was wearing his scrubs, and I introduced him to Wesley, and I said, look, he's a real doctor. And so Wesley proceeded to say, well, I was a doctor before you were a doctor. And he starts just spewing out absolute nonsense doctory words. Just like, but I played one on TV.
Yeah, about the only thing I remember is there's something about the endocrine system usually causing most aliens problems. It seemed like every alien species that came into the sick bay, it all boiled down to a problem with their endocrine system. Pretty much anytime anything is bugging me, I think it's my fucking endocrine system again.
There you
up
go.
On me. Where's
that
my
we all learned that germs can live in a vacuum. Nasty viruses that travel through space for millions of years. I remember that speech.
Technically introduce us yet? Do people know who the fuck we are?
I don't know. If anybody doesn't know who the fuck these guys are, they really shouldn't be in my show right now.
Oh, I was on a show the other day, and they said it was family friendly, and I couldn't use the F word. The whole show without saying it one.
How did you manage without exploding?
Still alive?
It
I know.
was
This
fucking
is
hard.
You didn't tell me this.
I didn't.
All right. So I guess that means we're in for like a triple shot of the F word. Just
No.
Sure?
Maybe I've turned over a new leaf.
I'm sitting next to him. That may rein him in a little bit. He does tend to wear T-shirts to children's parties, not anymore, but to children's parties that have like, what was Fuck Me, I'm a Dog? What was the one from that play that you were in years ago?
Man,
the Satan play.
Fuck One Goat. I wore a T-shirt to a children's party, and the line on it, because Satan famously turns, Mephistopheles arrives in the form of a poodle. So this David Mamet play has one of the characters as a quote, the devil curses, "Fuck me, I'm a poodle." I had a T-shirt that said "Fuck me, I'm a poodle."
Yeah, he's wearing it under his.
He said that's probably not appropriate to wear.
He was wearing it. He always wears a T-shirt, or doesn't always, but with a button-up shirt over it, And so he like unbuttoned the top shirt and took it off at this children's party, and it like just blazed out in the middle of the yard. Fuck me, I'm a poodle.
And probably she asked me to take that shirt off because there was a stain on the shirt, so I took the top shirt off.
Oops.
What she doesn't say is that probably there was a corresponding stain on the T-shirt too.
This is true. We went to lunch once, and actually he was wearing a shirt, and it had like a stain on the pocket, like that he just dribbled there from eating. And I was like, "Oh,
not out of my mouth, you understand?"
Yeah, you had actually,
but I just hold the food in my mouth.
I just sort of pointed it out, and he went, "Oh, I mean, I wasn't being like or anything. I don't care." But he took that shirt off, and right exactly in the same place on the T-shirt underneath was a different stain. So at least you were consistent in your stainage.
Yeah. Yeah, if I took that T-shirt off, there'd probably be a stain that's kind of like
in your skin.
It's like just been. Melissa wanted you to know that she prefers blaming her lymphatic system.
Oh yes, the lymphatic system.
Oh, you blame that.
That was frequently. They used to have a little bowl in the Star Trek offices with a bunch of medical and technical jargon. So when they'd write the scripts, they'd leave certain words blank in the script, and they'd reach into the bowl and they'd fill it out with lymphatic system
Are
or
you
you know,
serious?
yeah. It was how
Oh my
sometimes it was
God.
like Mad Libs. Star
Oh
Trek.
my God. Melissa also says that when she taught 5th grade, she didn't say a bad word, so she made up for it when she was at home.
Well, Bonnie has pointed out to me. Well, one, she said I could never have a political career because I couldn't curb my tongue, and two, I've got a checkered past. But also, she thinks that perhaps I'm not really as amusing as I think I am when I use profanity profusely.
Did I say that?
You've said that many times.
Yeah, I have,
You said that
actually.
This
many.
is why this is amazing having the two of you together. This is
Well,
this
it's
is
just
going to be fun.
saying that using the word fuck is releasing and it's
Yes.
powerful, but it does not
Yes.
always mean a laugh. I mean, or if it does, a little bit of a cheap laugh. Just saying.
Nothing fucking wrong with a cheap fucking laugh. I said.
No, there's not. And you're right. I actually had a friend that studied linguistics, and she said there's something about that, the sound of
fricative.
saying fuck,
Yes.
that actually makes you feel better. Like there's
Yes,
just something
it
about
is.
the
See, I
sound.
think like the word ass is funny, right? So I'm gonna, like, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna say you throw that word ass out there because there's just something you picture.
Ass may be funnier for women, and fuck may be funnier for men.
Do you think? I think
just-
poop is universally funny.
Poop. I used to make Bonnie would just laugh. I could just say the word poop, and Bonnie would just laugh and laugh.
Then
Early on, we had a very
you should have tried to beat out Sir Patrick Stewart for the poop emoji voice in the movie.
Is he the poop emoji voice?
He's the poop emoji voice in the emoji movie. You didn't know that? Yeah. See, you would have been.
Wow.
Now, and I'll get off this in a second, but did you know that when the poop emoji first came out, I'm old, I like went, oh my God, there's a pile of poop with eyes. And I showed it to a couple of people, and there was like this silence, and they would go, oh no, that's soft serve ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't think so.
And you were right.
Yes.
The world was crying out for a soft serve ice cream emoji. What do we need? We need a good soft serve ice cream emoji, by God.
No, definitely needed a.
Where is the cheese blintz emoji that I've been dying for?
I think there is one.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure
There probably is. Just look food up on. I finally learned that you can actually search your emojis. It's so much easier
Isn't
than
it
actually
better than
scrolling.
searching your emotions? Searching your emojis.
Searching your emojis. It's easier to search your emojis than search your emotions.
Yes.
But we are here to talk about a lot of different things. I promised a lot of things. I promised you would answer fan questions if my fans ever come up with questions. But we're also here to talk about this thing that's right down here on the corner of everybody's screen that says Track Talks. And it's happening in January on Saturday the 13th, 2024. And it's the third one, from what I understand.
Third one. I can't believe it. Yes.
I can't believe it either. And I did talk to Bill Smith today from Trek Geeks, and we chatted about it. And for those of you that don't know, it is a joint production from Trek Geeks, Roddenberry Podcasts, and brand new this year, TrekMovie.com is joining you. And of course, it's all for the Hollywood Food Coalition. And there's going to be I don't know. John's going to be performing. There's going to be more of those performance videos like last year where you're running around parks with Will Wheaton. Are we going to see
may
more
not necessarily be, it won't be an exact, well, first off, for those who aren't familiar with it, and maybe everybody is, it's an 8-hour Jerry Lewis-esque, I'm Jerry Lewis, telethon to raise money for the Hollywood Food Coalition, 50 or so, 60 or so iconographic Star Trek people from in front of and behind the camera, panels, standalone interviews, interstitial bits, musical interludes. You'll learn the story of the Hollywood Food Coalition. Last year, we raised over $100,000 with a big boost from Rod Roddenberry himself. We're hoping we can exceed that this year. And there are also some really interesting, I don't really want to call them prizes, what we basically do for people who donate at certain levels. And the levels are relatively low. Your name goes into a pool, and then at the end, we draw those names out, and we have some really terrific, I guess prizes is a word I have to use.
Yeah, but incentives. They're incentives to donate.
Yes, including a trip to the Magic Castle. Bonnie Gordon and I will take you to a wonderful night in the Magic Castle in Los Angeles. We've got some terrific memorabilia. Anyway, it's a really, 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 really fun event. The people who've participated in the past have had a great time, and the Hollywood Food Coalition is a marvelous organization that does tremendous things in their community.
Yep. And those panels, just to let everybody know, you get to see all of the Trek geeks. The Sci-Fi Sisters did an amazing job last year with kind of an homage to Nichelle and expanding on the story that everybody was so familiar with, which was Martin Luther King was instrumental in keeping her from quitting Star Trek, but there was so much more to the story. So the Sci-Fi Sisters did an amazing.
And they'll be doing another panel this year. Last year we had Anson Mount and Scott Bakula. We've had
Bakula. Yes, that was the big one for me. That was amazing.
Yep. Frakes is going to be there. Our centerpiece panel this year, we believe, is going to be an hour-long plus panel with the stars of Picard season 3.
That's going to be gorgeous.
And Terry Metalis and Beverly Crusher, and well, we've got all sorts of people that we've asked. Putting this together is a time-consuming enterprise, as you can imagine. Getting in touch with folks, nailing people down. So that's still in process yet. I don't want to say everybody we are trying to get because it's still a work in progress, but we're pretty confident we're going to have a really smashing show.
Yes, well, if it's anywhere near last year, it's going to be amazing. Dave Gregory, love the Hollywood Food Coalition. This year was the second time following STLV. I went out to LA to volunteer at the Food Distribution Center. Good for you, Dave.
Wow.
And it was rewarding. And I think that leads us, we were talking before the show started that Bonnie has a project that she specifically spearheads over there. Was that my understanding?
Well, let me say a little bit about the Food Coalition. I'd love Bonnie to tell you about one of the things we do. First and foremost, we serve a hot multi-course meal every night of the week to all comers, 7 nights a week. And we help the people who come to us for a hot meal get access to other services that other service providers are able to give them. We have a UCLA medical van that comes to our campus on a weekly basis. We hand out socks and shoes and sleeping bags and tents and you name it, everything under the sun.
We have a vision person come out once a month so that people can get glasses and stuff like that, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, we did a video last year that was really moving about a guy who had his first pair of glasses in a year that, radically changed his life. But we also started, and Bonnie and I kind of played a role in creating this. We started something called The Exchange. We rescue about 3 million pounds of food a year, and we share it with between 130 and 150 organizations to help buttress and augment their meal programs. So imagine, just to pick something randomly, a battered women's shelter that has a wonderful program, but maybe their meal isn't so robust. We're trying to create a program that provides concierge level service. So they tell us what they need for their clients based on their capacities. And we try and get them as best we can what they want.
We're the middleman. And it's a concept that instead of being a large food bank, like Feed America and stuff, which are amazing and wonderful. But the problem is you will often, it's so vast. And this happened to me when I would go get food for our organization for our nightly meal. You go there and you have to take pallets. And if you guys know how big a pallet of, boxes of different food can be, it can be 40 boxes of jicama. It can be like gallons and gallons of milk. And for an organization that has no refrigeration or no storage, or only like they're serving 50 people in a sober home or something like that, they can't take it. So they don't really have access to that kind of food. So what we proposed is, how do we become the middleman? How do we become the middle place where we get the food from the food pantry on those pallets? Because we now have a warehouse, we have a walk-in refrigerator, we have a walk-in freezer, we have volunteers, and we go through and we sort the food. I think this is, David, this may be what you came out and did, I think.
It is, yeah.
I think our staff was like amazed with you, but we come out, we sort that food, we compost what's not good because it's all donated food. Often it's on the last couple days and legs or shelf stable stuff too, but we sort it. inventory it, and then we reach out to these organizations that we know intimately that say to us, do you have any eggs today? Do you have 2 cartons of milk? I'm serving 20 people. We want to make a turkey dinner. Can you get us some turkeys? Or an organization that does outreach and they're saying, can you get us candy? Can you get us some pop top lid kind of things? Can you get us lunch bags, which is what I'm going to talk about? These are the things that we can go out to people who are living in encampments or on the streets, and we can offer to them easily, swiftly, and they'll feel trustworthy. So we're trying to find the best food to match from what we get donated and we sort through for these other organizations to buttress, as John said, their programs in the best way possible.
Melissa says that she spoke to you, John, briefly at STLV. She supports her local university food pantry and donates to local nonprofits who are out there supporting people.
Great.
She also said repurposing food is so important, and she's participated in Food Not Bombs. Ooh,
yeah, great.
Which does dumpster diving, not the same, but I think also very. Yeah, I've seen on I want to say it was a Gordon Ramsay show or something about how there's food that gets thrown away that you can actually eat.
Oh yeah,
because because of how it's packaged.
That's why it's called food rescue.
Well, we changed. We started about 6 years ago. I remember using the term food rescue because there's an organization called Food Rescue US, and I was like, "What is this?" And started realizing that people would look at me and go, "I don't know what you mean by saying food rescue." And the idea is, you're rescuing stuff that's edible. Yeah. You're rescuing sometimes. That's why we did the pickup artists, where we picked up food from studios, from shoots, from catering, because it was steak. It was perfectly pristine salads and things like that that were so good for people that were just being dumped because there was nowhere.
When COVID hit, we pivoted because obviously,
yes,
one, they were shut down for a while, and 2, they really changed the nature of how they ran their meal programs, so there weren't as much leftovers. But the other thing we do, which I really want to touch on, because I love the idea that people are familiar and promoting efforts to rescue and share food in their own communities, is what we do. I love it, but it isn't like we've reinvented the wheel. There are amazing organizations all over the country, and I always kind of try and ask the question to myself, why would you encourage people to donate to an LA based organization when they may have places at home? One, that may very well be a fair question, and maybe you should be donating at home. But 2, the thing I'm also really proud of that we're doing is we're trying to work with, and Bonnie and I really stressed this when we got involved, how do you build the coalition aspect of the work so that you're partnering with other organizations that want to achieve the same ends to figure out what can only be solved collectively?
Get a safety network.
Yeah, I mean, we all know, all the groups who are trying to answer the need of a gargantuan population in Los Angeles, so many food deserts. How do you add more refrigeration to the capacity load? How do you add more storage space, transportation capacity, volunteer capacity? Those kinds of things demand a group of people working together. And I really hope one of the things we're trying to do is come together with other groups to come up with solutions that have the ability to travel out across.
Templates.
And it's interesting that you said food deserts. I'm a huge Daily Show fan back from the Jon Stewart days, and I had never even heard of a food desert until they did a story on. Not only did they do a story on it, they did a story on it based in Camden, New Jersey, which my grandparents used to live there, and my mom grew up there. So I'm like, that's literally my backyard.
And for those who may not be familiar, I mean, we're kind of steeped in this stuff now.
Right.
Food desert is a part of the city where, for various reasons, socioeconomic reasons, grocery stores have chosen to not locate. Maybe the only available food is the food at a bodega or a convenience store, which is usually prepackaged, full of chemicals. There's not enough fresh food.
Always overpriced.
Yeah. And there are other issues that come into play. Frequently, not-for-profits, they may set up in areas where it's tricky to maintain a not-for-profit's existence in a relatively underfunded area. Every not-for-profit needs a funding base. So one of the challenges I find in the not-for-profit sector is you don't necessarily set up a not-for-profit in a poor community and it doesn't survive, because you don't have the money coming in from that community to sustain it.
But then there also then becomes sometimes a little bit of warring factions. I mean, I was working through the exchange with groups in Compton, and there was a gal who is a whiz at getting food transported, and everything about feeding the world is about logistics. That's why we don't feed the world. The food is there, the logistics and the transportation and the
To get it
refrigeration.
where it needs to be. Right.
Exactly. And
Because
find out
you've
where
got a very narrow window. With
Right.
food.
Yes, with the food that you're talking about, the healthy isn't sustainable.
Yeah.
The
Right.
processed stuff can sit on the shelf for 12 years. The lettuce and the tomatoes can't.
To Bonnie's point, it's this in this world, and I think in the not-for-profit world generally, every not-for-profit tends to have its dukes up. My funding source, my product, I got to survive.
a little bit my people too. I mean,
Yeah.
there is this Fortune 500 gal who had suffered a lot in her youth,
Mhm.
and really, I've never met a tiger out there getting food to people. She's amazing, but she's Newport Beach, which is a much higher economic bracket area than Compton. And so she was coming in trying to get food in there and food to the people in Compton. And the grassroots groups, nonprofits in Compton were like, these are our people. Why are you coming in and doing this? I mean, that's what we're trying to like get everybody on the same page, saying it's okay. We got to work together.
And
we got to use all our resources.
And it's hard because it's governmental structure within the not-for-profit world. How do not-for-profits come together and say, are there funding structures and mechanisms that we can create that will allow us to go after collectively big pools of money for collective problem solving? That's a challenge because nobody really quite wants to give up the possibility that they might have gotten that money all to themselves.
Right.
So, but that's what I feel like the Hollywood Food Coalition continues to strive to try to do, and is why it matters to me.
Well, and you had said something like a template. Have any other major food banks in any other major cities across the country, has anybody ever reached out to you to say, hey, listen, we want to do what you do?
We have had, I think, conversations, at least here in Los Angeles, with certain council districts where people are beginning to like the idea of what we are basically calling a food hub. But this is a long, slow, arduous cook.
Right.
And B, I have no doubt that there are places all over the
are.
country who are doing what we're doing. It's just, it's a vast country and there are lots of interesting, compelling things happening.
I found that for instance, in Chicago, I was working, I was shooting a bunch of Chicago Med episodes a couple of years ago, and I started reaching out to try to get food rescued on the shows, on the sets, because they had a bit of a system that we have out here in place. They just didn't know they had it. They didn't realize they had little freezers there that their chefs, no one had told them they could wrap up the food and put it in the freezer, but no one also found a group that could come in and pick it up. That system wasn't quite there.
So it goes back to the logistics.
Yes. And so I started talking to one of the drivers who was driving me every day, who had this passion to feed people. He's amazing. And he was like, I can do this. I can do this. And so he started setting it up so the food was moving around. And then I started talking. I walked by a church and realized that the church was doing food distribution, and that actually a city like Chicago does quite a good job of getting food and connecting. I had not been aware of that. It was like, okay, you guys are working together. And I said, reach out to me and we'll try to support you too. I heard from them once, but I'm in Los Angeles. But I was fascinated to see that there was some system in place. They hadn't gotten the studio thing quite working.
Yeah, it sort of becomes a full-time job to say, I want to go out and Johnny Appleseed around the country and find other organizations that are doing things that are similar, band them together and see if we can I believe there are probably people who are doing that, and huzzah for them. It is a challenging thing to take local initiatives and metastasize them into bigger.
And I think part of it too, Bonnie, is maybe, when you're in a place like Chicago that's not like a movie hub like LA or New York or what Atlanta's turning into, is that people don't realize, people that are there, that are boots on the ground, don't realize if there is a movie company that comes into your town, they are a great source. Like if you don't know food waste that goes on a movie set, then your organization wouldn't think to reach out to production companies going, hey, you guys are shooting, call us, we'll come get all of your food.
And that's that logistical issue. And that was the experiment that John and I did when we first started volunteering with the Hollywood Food Coalition. And that was the pickup artist, is like, we're actors. We know the connective tissue. We have someone who is also on the production end, pinpointing productions that have agreed to donate their food and we'll give call sheets and stuff. We can coordinate people to pick up that food, because we know that lunches get pulled and pushed, that you have to track the time. We know to go to the caterers and say, this is absolutely 100% legal for you to donate this food. You may not be aware of all the laws that are in place that protect you. And then also say, and these are the organizations where we know that food can go to. We know they can take that food. So yeah.
I mean, I've done a lot of background work. I've seen what goes on set, and I've seen people taking Tupperware to set because craft services is like, just take it. We don't need it. Just take. So, I mean, and I get it. Yeah. I mean, I've taken plates home, but just to think, I could have done without that plate if it could have gone somewhere better.
I had a caterer beg me. I came and picked up some food in the valley from a shoot, like at 6 at their evening meal. And he said, could you please come back at 2 a.m? And I said, no, I can't. And he goes, I have to do second meal.
It's
going to be 200 In-N-Out burgers, and nobody's going to eat them.
Nobody's going to eat them. Yeah. And the other thing, though, I'd love to hear Bonnie talk about is, because this is another program, when COVID hit, one of the things we wanted to do was to see if we could alleviate some of the pressure on our kitchen, because we serve 7 nights a week. So we thought, well, maybe on Sunday night, this local group that did a small sack lunch program could do it for us, and we could serve soup and sandwiches instead of a full meal. And maybe that would be a group called Hodge, Hang Out, Do Good, banded together some families and started
about 20 families. They made 10 lunches each.
You take over from here, because this developed now into a program.
So on March 29th, 2020, beginning of the pandemic, right? They say that they would be willing to make 200. They thought they could get, they're very well organized. They could get 20 families to make 10 really, really nice lunches each, decorate them, maybe put some nice things inside, good sandwiches, and they would drop them off at our kitchen. What day? John said, yes, let's do Sunday. And I said, oh, I want people to have Sunday off. I'll meet you there at the kitchen at noon. And you ladies, Jen and Helen, you drop those lunches off and it'll be great. So I went to the kitchen. They drove up in their cars, and instead of 200 lunches, they dropped off 400 lunches.
Wow.
And it was like, oh, okay, now I have 200 lunches extra. And I had to take the sandwiches out and put them in a refrigerator, and then figure out with the different parts, because we didn't have enough room in our little kitchen for all of that. And I thought, this can't be. So I thought, I'll invite another group to come pick up next week, and they'll get 200. We'll get 200. So show up the next week. They made 800 lunch bags. And it's like, you're killing me. You're killing me. So I got another group. Next Sunday, they make 1,600 lunch bags. I'm unloading these all by myself, and it's like, all of a sudden it's like, we got to like sort of rethink this. And what happened is, every single week it was 2,000, 3,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. It got up to 7,000 lunch bags every Sunday for about 6 weeks. And we just kept adding groups and developing a system, and it went from being one community of neighbors to 14 communities. And people heard about it because Hodge does an email thing. And so people in Santa Monica, in Brentwood, in Pacific Palisades, in Studio City, they decided, we want to do this too. And I had people like driving. I had 25 cars sitting around the block trying to drop off, and it's like, ooh, we got to fix this too. Right. So what they did is they created hub houses. So there's a person who has a house in each of these communities, dedicated on Sunday mornings from like 9:30 to 11:30 in the morning, where anybody who wants to make lunches can drop them off in their lawn. They pack up volunteer cars. They drive them over to us at Blessed Sacrament Church. We have volunteers waiting, and I staggered them. So each community comes at the cars come out at a slightly different time. Right. And then they drop off. We take out the lunches. They are labeled as to what kind of sandwich is in the lunch, because Hollywood Food Coalition, we believe in choice. Most organizations do. Are you vegan? Are you vegetarian? Are you a meat
gluten? Right.
Gluten-free. Do you want a tuna sandwich today? That you will not believe the response when you look a person who's suffering in the eye and say, hey, what kind of sandwich would you like? And they usually go, I'll take anything. It's like, no.
So
pick. Somebody mentioned it earlier about giving dignity back.
Yes.
Bonnie now has a number of maybe 30 to 40 community groups that come and on a staggered schedule pick up a fraction, a percentage, a portion of the sandwiches that are dropped off, the lunches that have been dropped off. So since its inception, we have.
So we have, just to clarify, so we have it when it was at its height, about 30 organizations, now between 20 and 25. There are organizations, we know the work that they do. Village Family Services, the Sidewalk Project, LA on Cloud 9. I mean, these are amazing groups that do such good work, and I love these people. They send their volunteers out. I try to keep it, like, how many lunches do you want? 100. We could do 200. Sometimes we cannot meet the order because lunches have dropped. It's now at about 2,500. But it's so that they can load up, take the lunches to either their center or out into the streets, and they can do the work that they do using the lunches as the way in.
That's amazing. Real quick, I just want to address something that Melissa said, because this is in response to when I said, when I was doing craft services and I would take food home, and I said I understand about food waste. My point in my saying that is I don't need a second meal. And if I knew that my second meal could go to someone more deserving than myself,
Oh, I see.
then I would have foregone. Like, if they said, if I had, like, let's say, if I know at the outset, everybody's up at craft services and they're, you kind of get a little gluttonous because it's all delicious food and you don't have to pay for it. But if I had heard, if somebody had said to me, after this is all done, all of this is going to this shelter, I would have said, I don't need
that
to
is
stuff my face.
that is a universal feeling. And I think Bonnie and I, having been in this business for a long time, the number of times we've heard people say, man, I can't believe this food isn't getting rescued. And everybody was essentially taking the same posture. It's like, well, if it's not going to get rescued, I'll take an extra steak home, but it's too bad this food isn't getting rescued. And it is generally true that I think everybody believes that the food that would otherwise get thrown out or is given to people who aren't necessarily in need, we should attempt to save it.
And I agree. But I'm just saying I would rather see it go.
Yeah,
that was all I was saying.
To finish this point, we have, over the course of the run of this program that Bonnie really started and does such an amazing job on, adding new groups and new communities and schools and churches and synagogues, yada, yada. We have distributed somewhere around 600 to 650,000 really nice multi-element lunch bags. Every lunch bag has a sandwich, a beverage, a sweet, a snack, fruit or vegetable, all over the city. And a lunch bag is valued at around $5 or $6. So it's the equivalent of $3 or $4 million. That is, just to me, so beautiful, because it is a huge community of people who make them, distribute them. The volunteers who come in every Sunday to work with Bonnie, everybody just kind of given of themselves. No one would be able to write a $4 million check, but collectively, it's $4 million that is poured into this community to help support the work. And
absolutely,
that's, to me, exemplifies what this organization is about.
Absolutely. The Shuttle Pod Show wanted you to explain about the second meal and why it's so often wasted.
Well, it's part of a union contract that the actors have to be fed at certain, after certain hours. So if we are working, as many of us do, overtime, there's a TikTok, and when the clock
So it's not
strikes,
just an 8-hour day.
Yeah.
Actors often work 16, crew too. Everybody,
definitely. Yeah.
16-hour days. They tried to pare it down to 12, but so after that 8-hour day, you have to have lunch and you have to have your dinner meal. If you go an extra into 12 hours, then they have to get you another meal within that extra 3 to 4 hour period. You need to be fed again.
Basically, on a set, when you arrive, there's a breakfast provided. Then there's a midday meal. Sometimes the set day doesn't actually start till 5 o'clock at night. The midday meal is 2 a.m. That second meal, they really want to wrap before they hit that second meal, but frequently they don't. And it doesn't mean that anybody wants it. It doesn't mean that anybody's particularly hungry. So frequently it's like a table full of pizzas. It's usually fast foody too, because not that much is open at that hour.
Right, exactly. And and at that point, like you said, everybody's tired. They just want to go home. They don't want to sit down and eat.
The catering crew has been dismissed. It's Crafty that is going out and finding some place that can deliver Chinese food at 3 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. But at that point, everybody's like, let's just wrap today so we can all go home.
Yeah. And breakfasts are another one. I mean, we found that, sometimes what happens is there's a lot of breakfast food left over, and,
Yeah.
it's
It was really interesting, and it just takes a lot of work. And again, that is the logistics, but it's possible. We had a children's show that was shooting. It was
all right.
something and something meet the world,
Yeah.
conquer the world, Cap and Susie or something. My friend was on it, but they would shoot during the day 5 days a week because it's a kids show, right? And they would have breakfast, and they would have, and the woman who was their caterer was a food rescue gal, and I loved her more than anything. And what we set up, Village Family Services, that helps at-risk teens on the streets get housing, get schooling, get job training, get counseling. So, and they have a very limited food budget, and it was kind of crappy, forgive my language, food, and a lot of the kids didn't want to, were upset about it. So we were able to go to the kids show, wrap up the food from their breakfast, take it over 10 minutes down the road to Village Family Services, or they could send someone over and get that food and start feeding Monday through Friday, getting those kids
An amazing breakfast.
Yes. And then we would actually get their lunch as well. So we were starting to support them with food throughout
This story
the week.
I loved is, for a while we were rescuing food from the movie shoot The Prom with Meryl Streep. And when the kids found out that what we were bringing over with the fried chicken and peach melba and black eyed peas and collard greens and amazing food, and it was the same meal that Meryl Streep was eating that day.
They looked at that.
It is a weird thing, but just that level of like, I'm worth something. I'm worth eating a good meal. I'm worth that.
Well, their director, when we first met the director of the program at Village Family Services, we looked at their kitchen, and he said, we just don't have food. He said, I bought a George Foreman grill so that I could try to make grilled cheese sandwiches for the kids. They would get Panda Express once a week in a pan that they would put on heat and serve. And he said, we do get donations, but it's this. And he turned around and he showed me loaves of moldy bread and expired stuff that people dropped off. And he said, I will not let my kids see this. This is what people make them think they're worth.
Yeah.
He said, sometimes it's okay, but he goes, we get a lot of expired food that people just think they can kind of drop off. And
I've seen that on a smaller scale. My mom worked for a synagogue, and people would donate things to the synagogue that were useless. And
I see a question on your thread. How does one get involved in programs like these locally? Which I'd love to answer, because
I knew you would.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is it's a Google search. It's and I think it's not just this. It's just generally, what are you interested in? Because I think a lot of what draws us together as fans of this franchise, and to me is really special about Star Trek, is the impulse to give back is really strong. The impulse to get involved is really strong. Sometimes I think the research project of, first ask yourself, what are the things that really interested me? And two, who's doing stuff like that in my community? I think it's more often than not true that you're not aware of the stuff that is happening in your own backyard. That's really cool. So I'd start there,
I have to say, we stumbled upon the Hollywood Food Coalition.
A little hole in the wall place.
Yeah, it was the greatest kept secret. When I volunteered there, nobody knew the name of it. It was the Greater West Hollywood Food Coalition at the time, which John called GWFUC or GWFUC.
Well, fuck yourself, like Argo. GWFUC.
We were just getting together with friends, trying to figure out volunteer opportunities and encourage each other. And a friend of mine who always volunteers, I was like, I'm so sorry. We're not preaching to you. You volunteer all the time. And she said, okay, make it up to me then. Come with me to the place that I'm volunteering right now. I get to cut fruit on my own. I bring my own knives. I get to help cook. She said, I just go every Wednesday and it's my place. And it was the Hollywood Food Coalition. And I walked in and went, oh my God, this is such a wonderful, caring place.
But if you can't find a place in your community, let's say, for whatever reason, the next step I would say is gather friends together and see if there are things that maybe you can do along the lines of the Sunday Sack Lunch program that would be really grassroots, really simple. Here's something that we started doing that I still loved, is we basically called all of our friends and said, hey, on Saturday morning or Friday morning, we're going to make the rounds. If you want to put a bag of groceries out, we'll pick it up and we'll drop everything off to a local food bank.
Which requires the research for you to find that place where you can drop it off. And I will say that we went to a friend's house and there was all this gorgeous produce on their porch, and we went, "You are amazing."
We inadvertently took their groceries.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was like they're a perfect food delivery.
wow.
Oh, I was just going to say it was a food. Oh my gosh. Well, I do know a really good place to start when you're looking to donate. Churches, synagogues, religious organizations almost always are collecting something.
Yeah,
they are, and I have to say the idea of making lunches is not new.
Right.
Everybody, it's such a great gift, and I've known groups that have started their own little version of it in other communities. You know, where they find a church or they find a space where people can drop off like once every other Wednesday. You just set up a date. They can drop off 5 lunches, 10 lunches. You just sort of have to give them some instructions, or the church does. And you drop it off, and then, you have an organization in the area pick it up, or the church uses it.
Yeah.
And it's just, I just look at like something like Habitat for Humanity or any number of groups that started with this kind of simple concept of, well, maybe we can take this action we think would be valuable and do it. And then it's amazing how many people kind of go, ooh, I want in on that.
I mean, the holidays are a perfect time to start looking, because organizations, I think, are more accessible. They're more noticeable. They tend to be more out in the community over the holidays to try and do.
Also, if you start a drive, I mean, that's how you find places too, is like, let's say you decide I've seen people do this too, like a toy drive for the holidays,
right?
A turkey drive or something, or a blanket drive for people in need. The little research that you do, or you get to do with your friends, is, hey, let's find an organization we think could really use some blankets or stuff like that.
Yep.
Chances are good they will be so grateful to you.
Right.
But you also get to check out what they do, and you might want to volunteer there. You might want to send out the blankets. Or something.
You know what literally just popped into my head? I don't know why, and I don't even know if they're still doing this, but we were talking about dignity. I know Men's Warehouse, the store. They used to say if you wanted to come in and buy a suit, if you had a suit you weren't using that was, lightly worn, still in good condition, if you brought it to them, they would see to it that it got donated to someone.
Oh, cool.
And I used to think that is the coolest thing, because we're talking about dignity. And sometimes all you need for like a job interview, you just need something nice.
Yeah, there are a couple of wonderful organizations that do just that. They try and make sure that people who are not necessarily, living on the streets, but who are still indigent, have good clothing so that they can actually stay in the workforce or apply for jobs. It's this is always something that means so much to me. When the Great Depression hit and Franklin Roosevelt was elected in 1932, he turned to a woman named Frances Perkins, who became his labor secretary. She was doing incredible work in New York on the local level. New York is a gargantuan city, but she was creating all of these amazing, innovative social programs to attempt to grapple with poverty. Roosevelt didn't have a clue. Roosevelt turned to people who were executing stuff on the ground in cities and said, I can steal that. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Cities are laboratories. Towns are laboratories for action,
Yeah.
When we search and find things that are happening that are cool and support them, we create the infrastructure. Everybody talks about the infrastructure. We're the infrastructure. We Americans are the infrastructure in this country. Our brains, our talent, our passion for giving back.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, there's very little that's new under the sun.
Yeah.
And a good idea is a good idea, regardless of where it is. So if you see a good idea that's working somewhere, bring it to your own community.
I'm sure cavemen gave other cavemen pelts. I've always had that feeling. Like if they had a used pelt, it would be like, hey, Grok, you want a pelt?
Right, exactly. Or fire. It's like somebody invented fire. They didn't just keep it to themselves. Otherwise, everybody else would have died off. They shared it.
There's this really interesting book called The Righteous Mind, and this guy has a theory. He says there were 2 different kinds of cavemen. The caveman who basically said, us against the other, dukes up. Don't let them come and get your shit. And the other caveman who said, hey, bring people in. If we don't expand the group, we're going to get killed.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes, he says, that tracks with our current sensibilities. And not to be overly political, but I sometimes think the progressive conservative divide, it's rooted in that caveman sensibility.
Cave person.
Cave person.
Cave dudette.
Cave dude and dudette.
And Dudine. There's probably a middle ground there too.
We've been very serious. This is so.
Yes, this is. I mean, we've been at it for 40 odd minutes, and
Bonnie and I usually perform low vaudeville when we go to conventions.
I was just going to ask you about that. You know, you guys
frivolous and silly.
Have you guys ever? I mean, I know obviously you
Been in
didn't
the circus? No.
First of all, let me just say this. I go to bed every night. 99% of the time, I'm falling asleep to Enterprise on the Heroes and Icons channel. Last night, I fell asleep.
Tom put you to sleep.
No, you did. It was Regeneration this time. Midnight my time. It was Regeneration, and I went,
oh,
I'm going to be talking to that Borg in a little while.
Yeah, the littlest Borg.
The littlest.
I was the baby Borg, because Borg are not traditionally short.
No.
Also, the snow in that was plastic shavings, which, think about it, when they're blowing the snow around, plastic shavings are blowing into your eyeballs. And you're going, I have to keep my eyes open with this stuff.
They don't fundamentally care whether we live or die.
No, it's all suffering for your art.
Yeah. Smoke machines. They made poor Connor immerse himself in
the water.
Turgid standing water and one.
Oh yeah, and that swamp thing.
Thing. It's like
and Precious Cargo.
They left the swamp for the weekend. They came back and said, "Okay, go on." It's like this stuff's been sitting there for 2 days.
It's a swamp, Connor. Get over yourself.
No, John was actually you were reading something.
Margaret Mead said the first sign of civilization was seen evidence of someone with a broken leg who had healed, because that meant that someone was taking care of them when they couldn't move.
See, it was the cave.
It was the community. Yeah.
All right.
Precious Cargo is actually one of my least favorite episodes of Enterprise.
That was the one that I think that almost really killed us. We saw a huge ratings drop. Now she's a good cook.
Oh, Pat! See, you even knew exactly where I was going with that.
Oh, yeah. She's definitely a good cook.
And she's beautiful. She fit the role as aesthetically. She fit the role, but
we used to have a blackboard in the office, Brandon's office. I'm sure it was in Rick's office, where they had all these things he called the cheesy crusties, the ideas that had been done a bajillion times.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going in one time pitching some ideas, and he was like, cheesy crusty. I was like, yeah, but all the fucking shows we're doing are cheesy crusty. It's like the whole, princess from another planet, and she lightens up when she meets the gruff crewman. I mean, you've done that a bajillion times.
I actually did a show based on Star Trek rehashed episodes, and we've talked about this a million times.
I don't envy these guys. I mean, it's hard to come up with new.
Well, no, and if it's redone well, doctor's orders. You know, that's one of my favorite episodes, because the whole thing with the flag and with the dragon.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
But I saw an episode of Voyager, literally the same thing.
I have heard that on several occasions.
And I went, oh. So yeah, I mean, everything. I mean, and it's okay if it's done with a little bit of a different bent and a different crew, then it's a different story.
And episodic television, at least not on streaming so much anymore, because they only do 8 or 10. But back when you're doing 22 or 26, it's like tick tock, here comes.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, 7 to 9 wasn't watching Danny Kaye movies, so or walking around naked. So you know what?
Yeah, that was I think fulfilling Chris Black. I challenged him one day. I said, everybody's running around in their underpants. When am I going to be running around in my underpants? He said, what if you're running around without your underpants? And I said, bring it on. And then a couple of years later, they brought it on.
All right, because I know I can't embarrass you. What were you wearing in that episode that, when you walked into sickbay and you were supposed to be naked?
They have a little sock they give us,
right?
We males.
Which often my husband has said, "Oh, I don't need this," and I've had to say, "It's not for you."
It's for the delicate sensibilities of the others.
He was naked a lot on True Blood, you see. So we've had this conversation more than once.
Yes.
But so it was just that's what I was just curious about. If it was just the sock,
it was an enormous sock. It was
an enormous sock. That's right. It's like they gave me like 5 or 6 socks. It's like these socks, all of them are too small. Come on.
They had to go to the big and tall shop and find the perfect
several socks together.
I know you wanted to knock down that plant.
It's infinitely more mortifying to be wearing what feels like essentially some version of pantyhose over your dick than to just be walking around naked. Yeah. Personally, I get it. It's not for my sensibilities, for other people's, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. You know, it's funny. I remember. This was years back. I saw somebody post on Facebook that they didn't understand how actors didn't get turned on in love scenes, and I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about because there's no chance. There's no chance. I
Well,
mean,
John was doing something where you were smooching that woman on a desk and there was a grip underneath the desk.
Yeah,
I get all
Yeah,
these
yeah.
stories. You know, I'm not so nice about it all the time.
there was. Wasn't getting turned on, but it wasn't the worst scene in the world. Yes, there was
Right.
an episode of a pilot. I can't remember what it was called, but I was playing the scoundrelly private detective, and I was making out with this quite beautiful woman. I was kind of leaning her over a desk, but the desk was missing a leg, so there was a grip underneath. It was having to hold the desk up, and
new meaning of the word grip.
for various reasons, it was another take. I can see the woman getting more and more like, oh, what fucking takes are we gonna get? It's like getting skin burn. This guy is like a character guy. I don't like to kiss character guys. I was like, oh, okay, we'll do another. That's fine, we'll do another. And the grip at one point, we pause, and the grip kind of sticks his big meaty head up and says, I hate fucking actors. What can I tell you?
Yeah, love scenes are not as sexy as they look. The camera definitely makes them look a lot sexier than the actual Creed.
I don't have a ton of experience with love scenes. I'm not usually the go-to guy for the love scene, but
the True Blood let you get your freak on a little.
I wouldn't call those love scenes.
No, I wouldn't call them love scenes either, but they were definitely.
Laurel and Hardy goes to the orgy, I think.
I think when I get done with my binge of Chuck, I might just have to go binge True Blood, although I did not like the last couple of seasons.
I stopped watching it when I stopped being on it, although
that makes sense.
That's my general rule of thumb.
It ended poorly. It was just one of those things that ended poorly. I mean, not as poorly as Enterprise, but definitely.
Yeah. I wasn't crazy about it. I loved 6 Feet Under, and I sort of thought the conceit of True Blood was going to be that vampirism and the nature of vampires mainstreaming was going to be much more analogous to what it was.
HIV and stuff like that.
And the gay and the rights movement.
Yeah.
And then it became fairies and werewolves and everything under the sun. And I thought it became like, something that was not that much different than any other, over elaborated fantasy story. It kind of lost its raison d'etre, in my opinion. But
6 Feet Under.
Paul did not ask me for my opinion. You'll be shocked to hear, any more than any other show creator has ever asked.
There you go. 6 Feet Under, on the other hand, had probably one of the best series finales I have ever seen.
Yes.
It was emotional and beautiful, and I have never seen anything tied up so perfectly.
Keeping with what that show was all about.
Exactly. And I was just in keeping with what
I got killed on 6 Feet Under.
Were you on 6? I'll have to see. That's just.
How every episode starts with somebody getting killed. I was a man who was so boring that his wife finally got sick of making him breakfast and killed him with the frying pan. So I was like, another thing that happened at work today, blah, blah, blah.
We have a frying pan, a cast iron frying pan, and John got a little nervous there.
It's like, I don't want to rehearse.
No, honey, we can rehearse this.
No, I know my lines just fine.
Yeah, no, Dave's right. It was so well done. That's where I fell in love with Michael C. Hall and Peter Krause. I thought that they were just phenomenal. Yeah. The supporting cast. I think
Kelly Waymire was on that. Kelly Waymire, who played my love interest, Ensign Cutler, in the first year.
Oh, was she on?
Very sadly had a heart condition, and
she died very young, very tragically.
She had a wonderful run on 6 Feet Under.
Just another show I watched that when it came out, but I think one of the best LGBTQ for the time that 6 Feet Under was out. I think just one of the best storylines was when Michael C. Hall's character, I think that his name was David, decides to come out. He'd been closeted, he'd been hiding with his boyfriend, and he finally introduces his boyfriend to his brother and his brother's girlfriend because they bump into each other at a restaurant, totally just spur of the moment. And David kind of lets him know that Keith is his boyfriend.
Oh yeah,
and they walk away from the table, and Peter Krause goes, "I think my brother's gay." And his girlfriend goes, "I think your brother's lucky." And I just thought that's how good that line, that it just stuck with me. It was so perfect.
That's funny.
It was so, and then it just went from there.
Yeah, I worked with the gentleman who played Keith on a fabulous movie, and it wasn't bad. Alien Raiders.
Okay, yeah, no, he was beautiful. I thought he was beautiful.
And both the women were terrific.
Yeah,
the woman who played the daughter in that was so marvelous.
Oh, the redhead, yeah. Yeah, no, it was a phenomenal cast. It was phenomenal. It was so well done.
Now we are getting we're not at our time. We're getting close. I wondered if people had questions, if you wanted to go to them, because I don't want to leave without giving people a chance to ask questions if they have any questions.
Slack Twaddle, perfect timing. Slack Twaddle would like to know if the Hollywood Food Coalition collaborates with organizations outside of Los Angeles.
Not at this juncture. I mean, we do within the Los Angeles area because Los Angeles County is vast. So within the county, we have a lot of partners, but we don't collaborate with organizations outside of our state.
Are there plans to try and branch out to other areas, or do you guys just are you still kind of growing yourselves to see?
I would say that it would be more along the lines of if we can continue to improve the template for what we do and we can start telling the stories, that those stories may be compelling to organizations and they're, huzzah, welcome to do what we do. I don't think any organization that basically has a foothold in a community should be too quick to try and expand to other communities. It's hard. I am more interested in coalition building within Los Angeles, which is huge in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you could do a TED Talk about how to build,
Well,
if anyone's just curious, by the way, I do kind of dip my finger into speaking, just me personally, just speaking with other organizations. That's what I did in Chicago, just seeing what's out there, what people think, if they have questions. There is a group called #LunchBag, and we help distribute their lunch bags. They are devoted to this idea of #LunchBag. They do, if you look them up online, they have a template that they have introduced internationally for how to throw events, and they're lovely. Their events usually involve music and people and putting together the sandwiches, decorating bags, and they put some treats and they get donated stuff, and they do. There's a lot of great stuff around what they do, and they're an interesting place to look and to see how much they reach around the world by trying to just give examples.
A lot of what not-for-profits do these days is they basically sell a participation in the not-for-profit experience to a corporation that's looking to get their workers involved. So, for instance, a corporation will donate X thousands of dollars, bring their work crew to the #lunchbag space, make lunch bags all day. It's a team bonding experience. It counts as a donation to a great charity, but it's active. And I think that's a really interesting movement in the philanthropic field. We're trying to do some of that ourselves, even within the lunch bag program. We're not quite set up to do it on the necessary scale, unfortunately.
Okay, real quick, getting back into the acting thing, Ed wanted to thank Bonnie for doing the Odd Couple at the live event.
Oh, I love doing that.
He thought you were amazing.
Well, but it was Tom and
the old couple.
Connor.
Yeah, Connor. It was just
that other guy.
Watch. Yeah, no. It was such a hoot to watch the two of them.
No.
And to be there with everybody. I mean, that was just so much fun.
Yeah. And for anybody that doesn't know, the new one is April. It's April 12th, 13th, and 14th. And I know they're just starting to plan that now. Uncle Hairball Googled local food banks. And see, he found the PDF and he's going to help. I think that's amazing.
Fabulous.
Amazing.
Fabulous.
That's awesome, Uncle Hairball. Okay, Dave Gregory has a question. What's the vetting process for places who want to donate? That's good.
The vetting places for the people who want to donate food to us.
The vetting process?
How do we determine who donates food to us? How do
we accept food from, you reach out. We accept food from individuals. We accept food from grocery stores, groups, and things like that. I mean, what the law stands, the federal and state laws essentially say if you donate food to a nonprofit that is going to use the food to help the needy, the liability falls
Onus is
upon
on us.
on us. So that's what we do is we look at it, we sort through it. I mean, if you donate,
So you don't vet the donators, you vet the donations.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, there are certain limitations. For instance, if somebody says, "Hey, we want to deliver a semi-truck full of food tomorrow. It's 70 pallets." We'll say we can't accept that because our space vets it.
Right.
Our manpower vets it. We don't have a full loading dock that vets it. But there are farm-to-table
and things like
programs
saying,
and
"I live in
supermarkets,
Riverside and I would like to donate food. Could you come pick it up?" I mean, again, it's the logistics.
Right.
You're accurate. We vet the food, not the and.
What in an ideal world, if you could wave your magic wand, we would love to see is in essence some form of remember in the old days when taxi cab dispatchers existed, I guess they still do. If there was a dispatch service so that anybody who wanted to donate food and it got to be well known, be it a grocery store or a restaurant or whatever, and that was 24/7 and you could man that and pay for that. So a restaurant could call and say, "Hey, I've got a pickup for you, 2:00 in the morning." The dispatcher could connect to all the participating not-for-profit social service organizations to see if they could find somebody who could take that food, store it, or distribute it immediately. That to me is sort of where we ultimately want to go. Because right now the problem is it's not so much how we vet it, it's is there a lucky break? They want to donate at a time we can accept it in the right amount, and we've got the refrigeration space and the trucks available, and we've got the volunteers. And there's a random.
We've done some think tanks, and there have been ideas about using Lyft. I worked with.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yeah.
DoorDash.
I worked with and we work somewhat with Replate. I mean, there is some of this going on. It's just a lot.
So
it's a lot. It's a huge logistical,
Yep. So Dave thanks you. Real quick, Bonnie. Slack Bottle says you and Nana stole the show.
Not true.
Well, I don't know. The Shuttle Pod show themselves say you guys were the best Pigeon Sisters ever.
Sure, that is true.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it? Whose idea was it to say Bonnie and Nana? My idea.
Oh, credit where credit is due. Shuttle Pod show.
Did I get a casting credit? I probably did not.
I don't. I did watch some of the original. The Pigeon Sisters are always great. They're just wacky.
What's Tomcat?
There we go.
Somebody said, "Have you worked with Tomcat Hospitality?" What's Tomcat Hospitality? We'll get an answer from that in a second.
Yeah, that was Puka Hair.
Oh, Puka Hair and Tomcat. I love it.
Yeah, Puka Hair wants to know about Tomcat. I believe Puka Hair is from the Nashville area.
I'll look it up.
Yep.
I'll look it up. Tomcat.
Yeah, it's in the Nashville area.
I once auditioned for a horror show about a puka.
Did you?
Puka outfit.
Wasn't the puka? Wasn't that
Was that Molly? No.
Puka Hair said it's hot. So Puka, I mean, it's hard because the chat goes by so fast. So
Jimmy Stewart and Harvey, wasn't it?
Yes, that's
Yep. So Puka, are you saying that that Tomcat is a Hollywood catering service? I'm like Puka's kind of flying by, so let's give Puka.
Puka, that we may have, because actually I haven't been working in that realm because I've been doing the lunch bags, but that's not an unfamiliar. I used to reach out to catering companies.
Yeah, Puka said yes. They're a Hollywood catering company.
Are they in Burbank?
Oh, maybe the Shuttle Pod show could answer that one, or Puka. Let's see who gets there first. Melissa says you were so good. More Pigeon Sister love coming at you, Bonnie.
Well, thank you.
Was there a spin-off? Can you just do the Pigeon Sisters?
The Puka Sisters?
Yeah, the Puka Sisters. I like that.
We could do the Puka Sisters.
Aren't they invisible, the Pukas?
No, and I can figure it out.
Well, it would be, what would really be interesting is if they did a gender bend on The Odd Couple and let Nana and Bonnie play Felix and Oscar, and then have Connor and Dominic be the Pigeon Sisters.
They did that a long time ago.
With Sally
Struthers
and Rita Moreno.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, that must have been amazing.
The Odd Couple of the ladies. Yeah.
Did you ever watch The Odd Couple, the one with Matt Perry and Tom Lemon that came out a few years ago?
I watched a couple episodes. Lisa Sims was guested on that.
I thought it was cute. I mean, they're not.
Jack Klugman and Tony Randall.
No, nobody is ever going to catch lightning in a bottle like the two of them. But
well, you know who played Felix originally on Broadway?
Oh, was it Matt? Oh my God.
Not Jack Lemmon.
Not Jack Lemmon. I'm
You're
thinking
right.
Art Carney.
Art Carney?
Yep.
No, I wasn't going to go there. All right.
He was the first Felix. I bet he was wonderful.
But they got the Pigeon Sisters from Broadway. They got them into the movie. I
Yeah.
remember I read about that.
Yeah.
They weren't going to cast them, and then they went to bat for them.
Yeah.
Art Carney must have been great.
I would have loved to see Art Carney.
John, we got to give a shout out to Jean. He came in. He's sick, but he came in just to show his support to everybody. So thank you, Jean. He's Canadian.
Feel better, Sean. We were in Montreal fairly recently.
Oh, my buddy. There's my buddy, Roy from Rao Productions. They were the Klugman and Randall were the definitive odd couple. Yeah, I'm not saying that they weren't, but I thought if you were going to modernize it, Matt Perry. I love Thomas Lemon. I think he's hysterical.
I think those were the days when Matt Perry was sort of, not feeling his best.
That's true.
I thought some of the spark and the effervescence of Matt Perry in Friends was absent in that.
I just can't remember the writing, and forgive me. It wasn't quite as that time period with the original. That was kind of really great sitcom writing. You know what I mean?
Back in the day, yeah.
That sharpness, I'm not quite sure. And that's just me. I don't watch a lot of TV.
But I know that they're doing. I know that the new live show that's coming up in April is going to have another. They're going to be doing more of the same. So anybody out there, save that date. But you know what date is more important because it comes before the Shuttle Pod show live. Is you need to save the date for Trek Talks too.
January 13th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific time.
So I get to sleep in, so that translates to 1 p.m. my time.
And should you miss it, it's available on YouTube. In fact, you can go and watch the last 2 Trek Talks on YouTube. The key for us, of course, is this is a fundraiser, so we hope that regardless of whether you watch it live or you watch it on Memorex, that you consider making a contribution to the Hollywood Food Coalition.
Yes, please. Every dollar counts. It all goes right into the Hollywood Food Coalition, correct?
A dinner costs us $5, and that's a choice of vegan, vegetarian, carnivorian, green salad, fruit salad, some kind of a starch, a dessert, a beverage. It's bread. It's really a great meal, and people get to choose whether they want to have the vegan, vegetarian, or carnivorian option.
We have a chef now,
a really good chef,
to try to up the game on.
And our hope is to build a new home in the next couple of years where we would be able to serve a sit-down waiter service meal, restaurant style meal.
That's just amazing. I think I can't even imagine what it would feel like to be in that position and just walk in there and feel, I almost want to say feel human again. And feel seen.
People, it's the only meal they're going to get that day. And to make sure it's provided with the maximum amount of care and concern is really important to us. And frankly, the other thing that we really want to say, forgive me, we can go on and on about this, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but the nature of the way that food is the way in, when you provide a regular, consistent meal and that kitchen is open and you come back regularly, out of that relationship comes the trust that allows people to kind of consider, maybe I will look into that drug and alcohol rehabilitation program.
Right.
Maybe I will consider actually listening to you when you say there's a housing program I could join. So much of what I think is missing in Los Angeles and generally is the idea that you have to start from a foundational place where it's daily, day in, day out care and concern before you try and solve some of the macro problems,
Right, exactly. And you're right, because who are you going to trust if you see the same people every day showing you that respect that you're so missing in the rest of your life, and after a week or 2 weeks you see the eye doctor pull up or the medical van pull up, and then you're like, these people won't steer me wrong.
Yeah, there's a wonderful woman named Sherry Banana who we met that modeled all of this for us. I mean, it's not like, we were goggle-eyed with admiration at what she had built and what she'd done. So I don't want to seem like we invented the wheel. We joined an organization that is now 37 years old. I think we brought certain things to the table to pop its capacity to do more, but the heart and soul of it was.
They modeled caring for us. That idea of consistency and all that kind of stuff, which is partially why we do the exchange and the lunch bag program to supply food. We still hand it out to people, our own
Sure.
clients, and we hand out lunch bags at the church to people who walk up. But the idea is to reach out to organizations who are doing this. That's what they're trained to do. They're trained to go out there. They're trained to go out with medical teams. You know, they're trained to say, hey, I have a lunch here. Can someone look at you? I
Yeah.
see you got a sore in your foot. We'd really like to
Like
take
to help you. Yep. Yep.
yeah, or do you have an ID?
Yeah.
Can we explain to you while you're eating? Because I know you're really hungry and you're about to pass out. Let's give you a moment. And what I'm finding is for the people who also get to donate their time, this is what I've learned deeply with the lunch bags, is it's very meaningful to the people who are making the lunch bags.
Mhm.
All this love is going into them. They're
Yep.
showing their kids how to make them. They feel like they're able to give back more powerfully than they thought they could.
Volunteerism is amazing. I mean, I certainly think one of the things that I'm most appeals to me about the Food Coalition is because volunteers come in every day to cook and to serve. People volunteer at the exchange, the lunch bag program. Over the arc of 37 years, there have probably been tens of thousands of people who volunteered for us. And I think every one of those people, it's changed the nature of the relationship they have to their community and to people in need. You know?
Absolutely.
And that's, I mean, we live in a world right now that seems to me that one aspect of it seems very dark to me is that there are people who are intentionally espousing no empathy. It's like kill empathy. And I think the only human response is to bump up empathy, in response.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ed brings up an excellent point. A lot of the actors that you get to come on to Trek Talks are the ones that don't get to go to conventions for whatever reason, and they come to you. So that in and of itself is an amazing reason to watch.
Yeah, and we really try and make sure that we have Nami, the composer, is going to be on. I'm spacing on her last name. Nami Melamod. The wonderful composer is going to be on this year. We have a lot of marvelous backstage people.
Oh,
We
that's
have,
awesome.
a ton of the Hagemans are going to be here this year. We're hoping Jerry Taylor is going to be here. I shouldn't kind of go into the folks we've asked. We're hoping we get Sonequa this year. Can't take this to the bank because it's always a process. But I'm really, really thrilled at the response we've gotten from the first year we did it. I thought, I don't know if I want to do this. I sent out, a bajillion invitations. Everybody said, yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
Which is, one of the things, the hard problem is just tracking people down.
Right. And
Once
scheduling.
Find them. People are really game.
Yeah. Well, again, I think part of it anyway is the Star Trek philosophy that's imbued in this community.
Absolutely.
And it definitely comes through. Roy wanted to share a quick John Billingsley story.
Oh, no.
From STLV 50. When you got called to do stand up at the Gold Banquet. I don't know if you remember this, on the roof.
Vividly.
And he said he took to the stage saying, somebody get me a scotch.
Possible.
And Roy had just gotten his from the bar, so he walked up and he gave it to you, and you handed him your half-eaten donut.
That sounds feasible.
Sounds like you.
Yeah, Roy, I've been there.
That sounds
I've been there. I got in that half-eaten donut before.
And he just wanted to say he loved it.
Well, you're a better fellow than I. Right?
Slack Twaddle said a city without hunger benefits us all. Absolutely right.
I thank you for handing my husband a scotch. That was you.
I thank you too.
Yeah.
Thank you too.
Roy wants to know if you do, can you donate online? Just
Yes. You can go to hofoco.org, hofoco.org. If it's still up, it was a Giving Tuesday campaign. And if the link is at hofoco.org, you could donate directly to my particular individual fundraising campaign if you care to. Not that it matters. It all goes to the same wonderful place.
John wanted to win.
I want to win.
He wanted to.
I was well in front.
Poor baby.
Is that right? Hofoco.org. Did I get it right?
You got it right. Hofoco.org. Most donations, most number of people, and one of the other board members got one person to make a gargantuan donation, and I came in second. It was like they only had 3 people donate. I had like 50 people donate.
They swept him, but they swept his legs.
Uncle Hairball said he wants to make a shirt that Chase suggested. Empathy is the key. Chase is
Oh.
Yeah,
absolutely
I
right.
love the work that Chase does. Chase is an absolute dear, and
One of this, you and she are some of the hardest working people in the nonprofit sphere that I know.
well, she laps the field with me. I mean, she is absolutely tireless. I mean, she has
Yeah.
created that program all
By herself. Yeah. But you know what? You're up there though with everything that you do for Hollywood Food Coalition.
Well, we are very simpatico, Chase and I. We actually got to know each other working on a political campaign of all things in 2016.
I remember. Yep, I remember. I talked to you about that. That was that when we met in New York in 2016 at the. Yep.
Yeah, and
because you were worried. You were worried about getting back to LA because you were taping something for that campaign.
Okay, yeah, and Chase. It was the 25th district, which is well away from where both of us live. So we were both of us like trundling because it was one of the competitive districts in that election. This is post Trump going into the first off-year election, and we wanted Democrats in Congress, and we were driving up there, and she'd had this broken down clunker, and she'd pull in, and it was full of crap. She said, "Don't look at my car, and don't look at me. I didn't change my clothes. I look like shit, but I'm here. Let's go out and canvass."
Oh, that is so Chase.
Who are you? You're wonderful. I love you. Our candidate got creamed, but nonetheless.
Yep, you guys are machines. So said Uncle Hairball. Yep. All of you tirelessly working. So everybody better have already put down this date in their calendar. That's all I'm saying. January 13th, 2024. I know last year was perfect. I was actually dog sitting for my cousins. I had all day to just sit in front of their huge ass TV, call up YouTube, and just watch. Even when I had to take the dog out, I kept it on my phone.
Fabulous.
So I wouldn't miss it because I didn't want to miss a second.
Gordon is going to be my co-host. Who, if you
actually suckered her into it again?
Absolutely. She's got a wonderful, effervescent personality. Believe it or not, I just sit back and listen for a good 5% of the time.
Yeah, Bonnie's fantastic. I'm going to be out there hopefully in April for a little bit, so I'm hopefully be able to catch up with Bonnie. Catch up with you guys. That would be lovely. Maybe, find some time to come out. I would love to see what the Hollywood Food Coalition does.
Excellent. Anybody's welcome anytime.
Oh,
yeah, please. And if you're ever in town on a Sunday, you can come out and help the missus run this amazing sack lunch distribution program, which is great fun.
Usually.
I'm there too, but I'm mostly getting away.
Wow.
I'm there to crack jokes and keep everybody
host the event.
He runs it.
You're just the pretty face that shows up.
Exactly.
He is. He's my boy toy.
Exactly. All right. Well, we should go have our little sup.
Yes, I appreciate. I was going to ask you earlier. The two of you were both on camera. Who the hell was making dinner? But
dinner's going to be a little casual tonight. I suspect it's probably going to be sandwiches, but nonetheless, we are.
You do need to eat.
Feeling a smidge peckish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Smidge.
I can make tuna melt or something.
Peckish. We don't want peckish to turn into hangry. So
no, that'll never. I'm too old to be hangry.
You're too old to be hangry. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this amazing show. Thank you, John and Bonnie, for coming out. Save the date. We
didn't come out. We live here. I don't even have my pants on.
Thank you for sitting in chairs for an hour and 20 minutes. How's that?
He does have his pants on,
all right.
But that's not an often kind of.
I didn't want to. I didn't want to
spoil. A reputation with these people, Bonnie.
I didn't want to spoil the illusion for him, Bonnie. But
I know the illusion that he's wearing a really big sock again right now.
Yeah.
And guys, listen, I am going to be here. I am going to be here next week. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. Don't forget to follow me on the socials so you can find out what my fun topic is going to be next week. And until I see you all next week, please don't forget to live long and prosper.
Mwah.
This is Connor Turner. You've been listening to the NX7062 podcast.